Yo, 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 what is going on, Kingdom Builder Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we're going to be looking at the top strategy games for Kingdom Builders that have the most amount of players playing them right now. We're going to go back even as far as 8 months ago, where we look at the intervals. So what were the kind of spreads on, were people were games gaining, were they losing on those? What's the trend right now? Which games have the biggest gains from 8 months ago up till now? Which ones maybe have the biggest losses? And hopefully it's interesting to some. I know it's interesting to me. I can't wait to show you guys the data. But before we do that, as always, right, if you enjoyed the content, always make sure to give us up, as it helps get this out to that so much more efficiently. Let's dive in to how did we pull the data. So we pulled the data based on the Gaming Hub. Now, this is something that I don't know if all Android phones have this, but I know Samsung Galaxy phones have this for Android. And so when you go on here, you can download a game. Once you download it, you can click on the game's details, and you can see what the spread, right? This is one I think I had just screenshotted this morning for Call of Dragons, which is a Kingdom Builder. And you could see you can go max up to the last 32 weeks. Being 8 months ago, and you could see kind of what the concurrent or the peak concurrent for that week or for that period was right when it was collected. And then what we looked at is, okay, well, how many iPhone versus Android users are there, right? So you could see 1 billion iPhone to 3 billion Android devices. But remember, the data is only being collected that I was able to find on Samsung devices. So then I had to look at, okay, well, what's the amount of percentage that that Samsung has, right, potentially out there, out of the total Android devices. So again, this data was pulled from December 27, 2023, right? But it's kind of going off in 2022 data. So you can see 34% of the Android market, right, with Samsung. So what we ended up doing here is we looked at 3 billion, right? We did 56% times that for 3 billion, right? That gets us how many Android smartphones. This was ending at Q4 for 2023, even though some of the data is a little bit older here, right, by a year. We then basically took 34% of what that number was, and we were able to arrive at wherever my calculator is, right? So this is the number, no, where's my thing? Here it is. So this is the number that we arose at, and I'll just bring it back here, right, which is 571 million, right, for Samsung devices. So that means that the data I'm going to show you is going to be off of this, meaning that you probably could multiply the numbers maybe by 4, I would say, give or take, because that would give us about 2 million, right, if you're factoring in other Android devices that could be playing, and then also accounting for the maybe 500,000 or 500 million, right, of iPhone users, right? And these are kind of, that would be, I would argue, almost kind of a soft, more conservative estimate. So by saying whatever you see here, you could probably times by 4, right? And I imagine there's a give or take there, right? And this is just all kind of soft accuracies. With that in mind, let's get to the meat of it all, which is the data. So starting off, we're going to look at, right, these are all the games in order. We're going to start off here and kind of work our way to the front, right? So let me explain first, right? This is going back 8 months. So you can see here July 15th, September 15th, November 15th. Then we have January 15th of this year, and then March 18th. Because again, I collected the data over about a 3-day period because it took me a while to do it. Again, you have to download a lot of stuff and then look at the details, uninstall, download, uninstall. It's a lot. So let's look at kind of where the top of the list is starting from 8 months ago. So top of the list, we see here Lords Mobile. We got 121,000 concurrent players playing. Whiteout Survival at number 2, 81,000. We have Ebony King's Return, 79,000. Age of Apes, 70,000. Rise of Kingdoms is there at number 5, 56,000. Doomsday at number 6, 46, almost 47,000. State of Survival, 36. Age of Origins, 32 at number 8. Number 9, Beast Lord, 29,000. Almost 29,000 for number 10, Viking Rise. If we look at the lower end for that, right, you can see some games at 0, just because they just might not have came out yet or were released at that time. And then you see, right, the kind of bottom 5 here, right, which is like Survival Tactics, King's Empire, Operation New Earth, Lord of Seas, Grand Frontier, War Games Commander, Fire and Glory, War of Nations, right? Okay, now let's look at going to September, right? So we look at September. Lords Mobile, again, still top. You can see they were top before as well. You can see Whiteout Survival getting some gains, 87.5. We look at 69 for Ebony, Age of Apes, Rise of Kingdoms. I mean, again, these are all familiar names, right? That you're still seeing at the top here. We look at Doomsday, Last Survivors, Age of Origins, State of Survival. And then we look at the kind of lower end, right? King's Empire, War Games, Zombie, Operation New Earth, Mad Survivor. Again, so right, other familiars. Now let's get to November of last year. So we look at November of last year. Right now we have 2 games over 100,000. Whiteout Survival joins. So it's Lords Mobile, Whiteout Survival, Ebony, Rise of Kingdoms, Last Crusade, Doomsday, kind of rounding out your top 5. Then we get to the bottom 5. Right, and you see now some of the games are kind of coming out. We got Zombie Age, King's Empire, Operation New Earth, Grand Frontier, War Games, Fire and Glory. Now let's get to January. So now we get to January of 2024, right? So just a few months ago. Now we look, and it's Whiteout Survival, it's Lords Mobile, we have Doomsday, Ebony Rock, Sea of Conquest, Age of Origins, Total Battle, Age of Apes, right? Dropping a bit. Then we look at the opposite end, right? Now basically all the games are out at this time. And you could see we have Zombie Age, King's Empire, Operation New Earth, Grand Frontier, War Games Commander, Fire and Glory, Age of Kings, Rise of Firstborn, right? So again, right, similar ones that just have low pops. Now let's look at which games have the most concurrent players playing them right now. So here we go. Here's your list. We're going to look through this top down because I want to be able to show everyone. So let's do it like this. We'll start at the bottom, right? Because this is, right, we have our 92 games here. You can see we have a total of 24 games that are below 1,000 concurrent players right now. Then we have 15 games at 1,000 or within the thousands, right? So there's 52 games that have 2,000 or more concurrents playing, starting from, War and Peace, Civil War. Then we get to Last Empire, War Z Strategy and above, right? We have 46 games that have 3,000 or more concurrents. We get to Game of Thrones Conquest and above, right, where we have 4,000. Where we have 34 games at 4,000 concurrents and above. We get to Gunship Battle Total War, and we have 30 games at 5,000 concurrents and above. 27 Nexus War Civilization. We have where we have 27 games at 6,000 concurrents and above. Then we get here, right, where we have Beast Lord at an 8,000, Dominations in 9,000. Then we have 22 games from Clash of Kings and on that have 10,000 concurrent players and above playing. Honorable mentions here for Guns of Glory, Call of Dragons, right at 11,000, 11,900, Last Shelter Survival 13. But then we have 17 games that have 15,000 concurrents and above playing. We then get to number 13, War and Order and above. We have 13 games at 20,000 concurrents and above. And then we get to 30,000, Age of Origins at number 8, right, 30,000 and above. You got 4 games at 50,000 and above. Rock is pretty much close and right there. And then you only have 2 games that are at 100,000 and above, right? So you look in this top down, you got Whiteout Survival at number 1, Lords Mobile, number 2, Doomsday, Last Survivor, number 3, Ebony, King's Return, number 4, Rock, number 5, Rise of Kings, Last Crusade, Total Battle, War Strategy, number 6, Age of Apes, number 7, Age of Origins, number 8, State of Survival, number 9, Viking Rise, number 10, and then you can kind of see, right now, I mean, I play Call of Dragons, and I've played Rise of Kingdoms, and I played Infinity Kingdom, and Dominations, and a few other games that almost all of these games I've downloaded and played past it through the tutorial, I should say, and then with a number of them I've played beyond that for a period of time. So yeah, this basically rounds it out. Now the interesting part to me is I want to look at the BD here. Now some of you might be wondering, what is this? Well, this is the big difference. So the BD to me is which games are trending right now. Which games are trending from the last 8 months that have been seeing consistent positive gains in their player base. And what's wild to me is that Whiteout Survival at number 1, right, has the biggest gains. 8 months ago, they were at 81,200 concurrents. They've seen almost a 54,000 plus gain. And now they're at 135. And bear in mind, this is a very small number from a subset pool of data that we have available to us right now, right? You could arguably multiply this by 4 and say, okay, well, concurrents could probably easily be at 500 million players that they have playing. I mean, this is pretty wild to look at the gains. They had a plus 6,300 on their first 2 month split. Second, on the third to fourth month split, they have 50, almost 16,000, right? They multiply this by 2.5. Then they double it from November to January of the new year. Now they're at 32,000. And then for the last 2 months, right, it's been, stagnant, but still holding. Then you look at Doomsday Last Survivor. They had almost 42,000 games, right? They started at 46.7, right? Almost doubled to where they're at now, right? They saw a negative gain, plus 200. Then they saw this massive bump for the last 4 months, from November to January, and then from January to March, right? Where you're seeing 27.4, 15.9. And then you look at Sea of Conquest as an example. I mean, yeah, they are down a little bit, right? They jumped up 15, was almost 1,500. Then they had almost 99, 83 here for the diff. Then they had almost 37,000 gain, but then they lost 23,500, right? But still positive if you're looking from where they were. Similar here for Total War, Total Battle War Strategy, right? Where they started at 20. That you could see they had a 6,100 bump, negative bump, 9,500 bump, negative 100, but still 34.2, right? Still plus 14 from where they were. So these things to me are just absolutely fascinating on like which games are really getting the biggest bumps right now. So then we look at, right, let's look on the opposite end. Even though we kind of showed you that here already, right? Which games maybe don't have the biggest bumps, right? Which games are maybe like losing a lot of players over the last 8 months. And you can see the negatives here, somewhat, maybe in total, kind of outweigh the positive gains. But you can see Age of Apes, right, has like the biggest drop-off, right? 8 months ago, they were at 70,400, now at 32.6. I mean, that's more than half. You look at Beast Lord, The New Land, they were at 29.2. As of 8 months ago, now they're at 87.50. Ebony was at 79.4, now at 59.7. And bear in mind, even though they're losing, at least on when it comes to the players, obviously clearly on these devices, these are still good numbers, right? Overall that we could see. Then you look at State of Survival, right? 36,000 now to 27.5. Ants Underground going from 26 to 18.5. Rise of Kingdoms, right, was at 56, 49.6. But they're pretty much been hovering around 50K, and again, still a good number, right? And you can kind of see, right, there's a number of them, right? 7 of these, right, have 5,000 plus losses or more. You could see 13 have 3,000 plus losses or more. And obviously, as you get to the smaller numbers here, and then you have the bigger numbers, it's not super impactful, like losing net loss of 3,000 over the last 8 months for something like Lords Mobile, where there's still over 100,000 concurrents, right, in this subcategory or for devices, is still not bad at all. It's a very small percentage. Where you start seeing that being more severely impacted would be something like Project Entropy, right, where you have 3560 and it's 1/4, right, you're more than half, you're like 60% loss. So again, just to me, these things are fast. Like I said, I love looking at the data. I love looking at the numbers. These things are so fascinating to me. And I'm going to aim to try and keep doing these weekly. And so for those who are not weekly, but monthly, where I'll try and aim to do these monthly where we'll look at them kind of at the middle. I have some other interesting stuff too as well that I plan to come out with, right? We're going to do, which games have like the most socials, the biggest social impact. We'll look at which games, right, have the biggest content creators. Right, we'll look at like unique mechanics for the games. And if you guys have any ideas on other types of coverage that I can do for the Kingdom Builder genre itself, right, please let me know in the comments down below. I'm always happy to add some more tabs on here. But I really want to expand on this because I love the genre as a whole, even though I play certain games within it. This is fascinating to me, and I hope that it is for others, right? If you want to see kind of where does your game stack up against another game. Now, the age-old question, right, am I going to make this data publicly available? There's a good chance that at some point I will once I cover each tab. So once I'm able to cover each tab, I'll probably make the data public, and then I'll just kind of update it, right, once a month. And this is kind of what I do with my Top Stat series that I've done in other Kingdom Builders, for example, the one that I currently do in Call of Dragons. But I at least want to go through all the tabs, and I want to fill this out. I want to get a good foundation for this before I publicize it, because I'll probably have a public version and then just like my private master that I'll have. But again, would love to hear your thoughts, right? Anything stick out to you? Any shockers that you're seeing from here? Let me know. I would love to hear. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.